Hello everyone, welcome to my presentation for Discussion Board Week 2. I'd like to apologize for last week's if you caught mine and it was 45 minutes long. I'm hoping that this week I can learn how to do a little bit better, but please bear with me as I'm still learning how to put this whole thing together. We'll start out this week by talking about Wilson's dichotomy. It was a theory by Woodrow Wilson that politics and administration are inherently different from each other, and they need to be approached as such. He was quoted as saying, "Administration lies outside the proper sphere of politics. Administrative questions are not political questions. Although politics sets the tasks for administration, it should not be suffered to manipulate its offices." Some critics say that the standard definition was too narrow. If politics includes all of what we know as policy making, then it would bar administrators, people like city managers, from participating in anything that they think they need to participate in. Here's my modern day example. Schools. In today's day and age, the teacher should be neutral and unbiased when it comes to their political views and just teach what is supposed to be taught. Administrators should not let their beliefs affect what they hand down to their teachers to teach. An example, a math teacher doesn't just teach math, but includes their political views from socialist economies and makes sure they teach it to the students. And in that sort of scenario, it leaves an impact on the student, and it's their way of putting in what they believe in regards to just what they need to be teaching. Let's go on to Taylor Scientific Management. First, a little background. Frederick Winslow Taylor started as a clerk in Midvale, but advanced to a foreman around the year 1880. When he was foreman, Taylor was, quote, constantly impressed by the failure of his team members to produce more than about 1/3 of what he deemed a good day's work. It made him determined to discover, by scientific methods, how long it should take men to perform each given piece of work. So with that said, he came up with his theory, which ultimately is a theory of management. It analyzes and synthesizes workflows. Its main objective is improving economic efficiency, especially when it comes to labor productivity. Most of its themes are still important parts of things today and are used in all sorts of stuff, from restaurants to businesses. My modern day example would be McDonald's. So McDonald's was the originator of mass production. The guys who started that business went in and basically said, this is taking too long. You're making this many burgers in this much time and it's taking too long, and on and on and on. They came up with where they said, okay, you stand here, you stand here, you stand here. You make this, it's going to weigh this much. You add the lettuce and you put this much on there. You get this time frame to put it out there, and everything's got to be like very specific. Other restaurants saw this and saw how they were just mass producing and getting things done. So other restaurants decided to go ahead and steal that idea as well too. And because of Taylor Scientific Management, now restaurants normally, especially fast food, go by scientific management. Now we'll move on to Luther Gulick's idea, which is described as POSDECORB, which actually I may be pronouncing incorrectly, but I don't know for sure. Either way, it's an acronym which means planning, organizing, staffing, directing, coordinating, reporting, and budgeting. It is also listed for your viewing pleasure at the bottom of the left-hand side here. Basically, it can be used as a systematic framework for efficiently executing business processes in a company or by an individual maybe. This essentially refers to the various steps or stages involved in like a typical administrative process. Let me explain it in just a little more detail. So the first step is planning. You basically establish a broad schedule of the work to be completed, and then you incorporate them in order to execute them. Then you organize. This involves formally classifying and defining and synchronizing the various processes, or all the aspects of the work that eventually needs to be done. Then you take care of your staffing. You got to go recruit, you got to hire the right candidates for the job, you have to also facilitate their orientation and training, and at the same time you got to make sure that you provide them a well-oiled environment to be working in and to be learning this stuff in. Next, you have directing. This is going to talk about your decision making and delegating structured instructions, of course, in order to execute them. So you need people high up that are the people that are going to take care of everything below them. Then you do coordinating. This is another way to refer to orchestrating. Then you kind of take all the various components of the work, combine them together, make sure that they all work in accordance with the overall plan. Reporting is next. After you have everything work together, reporting involves regularly updating the superior about the progress of the work-related activities. The information can be through records or inspection, but either way, you need to be responsible about giving it to somebody that's higher up than you. And finally, you have budgeting, and this pretty much speaks for itself. It's pretty much responsible for accounting, fiscal planning, control, giving money to where it needs to be given, and all that good stuff. So my modern day example would be a hospital. For the planning stage, obviously, you take the various components that are in the hospital in order to build your facility to establish everything that you need in order to take care of patients who come in for medical assistance. The organizing part of it, you're establishing all the pieces that complete the hospital around what the patient needs, making sure that you don't lack in any sort of thing for any sort of emergency that you may need to handle. Staffing, obviously, you hire doctors and nurses, and behind the scenes you need other people, administrators, and you need like secretaries, all the people that do the behind the stuff. That way you don't have to worry about that kind of thing and everything's taken care of. Directing, that's the administrators. They're the ones that are responsible for taking care of the process from admitting to release and making sure that the patient, while they're there, is being completely taken care of. Coordinating, going with the workflow. You're explaining how to do it, and you're the person to direct it in the way it needs to be done in accordance with the overall plan, with making everything flow together without a hitch, because that is your responsibility as an administrator. Reporting, well, if you're the administrator, you're the one that's going to be getting all the information, but everybody else that's involved needs to tell you exactly what's happening. If something is incorrect, if something needs to be taken care of, you're the person they go to in order to fix it. That way they don't have any worries when it comes to taking care of their patients. And finally, budgeting. They're going to take care of all the stuff that they need to buy for the hospital and everything along those lines. The budget can be changed to make the process work better. An example would be if there's a hospital that specializes in more surgeries, so they need money to be spent on maybe more pieces of equipment rather than just one major piece of equipment. That way they can get the work done in the time frame they need to do it with and without any delay. Now we're going to move on to Weber's bureaucracy. And I'm going to apologize in advance because that word is very difficult for me to say, and I have to repeat it several times on this slide, so I apologize in advance if I screw it up too many times. Okay, so Max Weber had a belief that bureaucracy was the most efficient way to set up an organization or an administration. He stated it was better than like a traditional structure. And in a bureaucratic organization, everyone is to be treated equal and the division of labor is clearly described for each employee. So there's 3 rules. Number 1, all regular activities within a bureaucracy can be regarded as official duties. Also, note, if you want to follow along, it's listed on the bottom of the slide. Anywho, number 2, management has the authority to impose rules, and 3, rules can easily be respected on the basis of established methods. Here's your modern day example. Government workers in a county system. If you're going to apply to work for a county of a city or something along those lines, job descriptions are listed the same online. It describes exactly what you're going to be doing and exactly how much money you'll start at, what you top out at. There is no question about it. As long as you're employed under that job description, regardless of your actual functions, you will earn the same pay as someone else under the same job description. When it comes to the bureaucracy part, if you want to purchase something, there's a process. You can't just go out and buy something. It goes through so many levels in order to get approval to actually make the purchase. And this can cover something major, like if you're a sheriff's department, then you need approval in order to buy a unit for a station, or it can be something as simple as getting some more dry erase markers for a whiteboard. Let's move on to Follett's leadership. Mary Parker Follett believed that management was the art of getting things done through people. She practiced these principles of coordination that helped develop her theory of management. First, you have direct contact. There's a direct contact between employees and managers, and in her opinion, that helps organizations avoid conflict and misunderstandings. You need to hold regular meetings, or discuss assignments in person, and it's a simple way to practice this principle. Then you have early stages. Coordination should be learned and mastered straight away. No employee should feel less important than the next because each of them has a significant role that complements the roles of others. Then you have a reciprocal relationship. Every worker, regardless of their level in the hierarchy of a company, is responsible for pulling their weight and integrating with the rest of the organization. No one person should be trying less or more than another, and it needs to be a team effort with everybody involved. Finally, you have the continuous process. Coordination must be maintained. Don't just learn it and forget about it. Take it and channel it in every single thing that you do. She was known well for her mediating tendencies and managing tactics and created this amazing management theory that is still in favor today. She also brings points to integration. She thought that workers on any level should integrate to reach the organization's goals. If a conflict arises, there needs to be a conscious effort to pull instead of push. And in order to do that, you need to work together as a team. Because each member is doing their part, overall, they'll be more likely to be content with the result. Then you have power. Rather than establishing a strict hierarchy and delegating power to certain people over others, she believed that workers should practice coactive power. Powering with your team is better than powering over them. This way, everybody feels just as valued as the person next to them. This is not to say that hierarchy should be eliminated entirely. Structure is still crucial, but employees should not feel like they're less valuable than their managers. And finally, we have group power. It should be valued over personal power. Organizations don't exist for one person's benefit, but rather the entire company. If this selfless mindset prevails, all workers will feel like they're on the same team rather than in competition with each other. Here's my modern day example. A professional baseball team. So you have all these people that make up one team, right? And everybody's known for something specific. You've got the pitcher, you've got the catcher, you've got the manager. But without every single piece of that, you're not going to win. It takes the cooperation of everyone on the team in order to do so. One person is not better than the other. They all play a part and must work together cohesively in order to get the win. And you can see that every single day from management up, even the owners of the team, they tell management something, management guides their team, the team talks to each other, and in a well-oiled circular system like that, eventually you're going to win a couple games. Last but not least, we have Simon's bounded rationality. Essentially, it's the idea that rationality is limited when individuals make decisions. By the tractability of the decision problem, the cognitive limitations of the mind, and the time available to make the decision. Decision makers are seeking a satisfactory solution rather than the optimal one. It complements, quote, rationality as optimization, and that views decision-making as a fully rational process of finding an optimal choice given the information available. So here's my modern day example. Any large company. They have rules to follow, there's levels of hierarchy. An interesting thing to compare it to would be my job. I'm a 911 dispatcher, and I'm just part of the greater good. I have supervisors, my supervisors have managers, we have a lieutenant and a captain who run the facility. Every person is valuable to the team. We all work together to achieve goals of saving lives and keeping our deputies safe. With this rationality, we are able to make decisions, not necessarily ones that are optimal, but it helps us rationalize optimization and helps us decision make a fully rational process when it comes to saving somebody's life. Well, you've reached the end. That's all I have for you. What I've learned from this, though, is that no matter what form of management is chosen, each of the previous people made great strides to changing the face of management, and their models are used even to this day. While I myself am not in a management position, I would imagine that taking a little piece from every single one of these would pretty much make me the most amazing manager in the world.